Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want them? Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind, head out to show, or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want them? Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hello everybody and welcome back to Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. Today's episode brought to you by Antics, the Idle Champions webcomic. They have put out an in-game bundle of all of their, I don't know, I guess this is, of all the skins for the new Antics Spelljammer themed webcomic series. I just like to refer to it as Kobolds in Space and leave it at that. Features Makos, Shandy, Reya, Nyelli, Kreidel, and Tyral. You can see, look, it's Tyral is a kobold, Shandy is a kobold. Kobolds in space, specifically. You get the little funky space action going on. Kreidel, Reya. It's a wild Reya. Makos, Nyelli. This is definitely not a space marine with definitely not a chainsword. Definitely not. And all kinds of stuff. Feats and potions and packs and whatnot. So we're going to cover all of those today. Now, the interesting thing about this, I mean, I guess that's one way to put it, is Shandy and Reya are in the same slot. So, you can't actually create a Antics Series 2 formation. Which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. So we'll cover Shandy first, and then we'll cover Reya. And then we'll cover Reya. So the way the tutorial show works, obviously I talk about the stuff for like an hour, whatever the topic is. I talk for an hour, and then we do an hour of questions, and we do an hour of questions in the second half, and there will be a short musical interlude between those two. You can ask your questions now. As someone already has, and Martin's already grabbed them. Martin is joining me today as the producer in the Mod Pod. He will grab your questions from chat. Just make sure you put question : in front of them, like it says on the screen down below me, so he knows that you're asking me and not just chat. So he will grab anything you ask between now and the time I actually start to do the Q&A. I am I. I'm filled with anticipation, Martin. Were you gonna type something? Today's code. Cobalt in space. Cobalt in space. Because I'm shocked it wasn't actually used before my show came around. There's so many shows that come out before mine this week that could have used this and didn't, and I'm a little disappointed. Yep. So Martin is, again, Martin's producing in the mod pod, pronouns they, them. So if you're referring to them in chat, please use the proper pronoun. Alright, folks. We're going to start off with Nyelli. Definitely not a space marine. Definitely not a space marine. The nice thing about this, this setup, obviously some of these champions, if you get this pack, you're just getting skins. Some you're actually unlocking the champion, like Kreidel here and Shandy. But some of it is specifically either core or evergreen champions. Nyelli being one of them. Nyelli, one of the starter champs. You're actually your tank when you're starting off. It's not Brunner. It's not the dwarf. It's not the heavily armored dwarf with a shield. Just in case you're wondering. It's Nyelli. It's the human paladin. Lawful good, 20 overwhelm. That's our tanking number. Well, one of the tanking numbers. Base attack is a swing that cleaves all enemies, all targets near the closest enemy. But, you know, I mean, they're not really doing damage, so. Aura of Courage, first ability, increases damage of champions in the column behind Nyelli. So this is your placement indicator. Nyelli only buffs in the column behind, so when you're tanking with Nyelli, you need Nyelli in the front, and that means your DPS would go right behind them. If you're putting the DPS further than that behind them, then Nyelli isn't doing anything for you. Not really. Not off Aura of Courage. And I know it's, you know, it's just one of the abilities. Aura of Protection, this increases the damage of all champions, so you'd still get this, but why not both? Why not both? So Aura of Protection increases the damage of all champions by an amount for each enemy attacking Nyelli. So this one specifically only kicks in once she's actually got enemies hitting her. And these are the ones I've talked about this before. This is kind of the function of a tank. You want to be able to have a tank that survives long enough to really trigger a lot of these, because this is whatever this amount is for you, for each enemy and each enrage stack, which could get, you can have up to 100 enemies on the screen at once, and enrage stacks can go on forever, as long as you can live through the damage, or keep them away from you. Either way, this is kind of a big deal. So with Nyelli, that brings us to specializations. With Nyelli, you actually don't really want to go Oath of Vengeance ever. You want to go Oath of Devotion. I know it seems odd. You're like, well, how about just 100% more? Like it doubles the bonus from Aura of Courage. Sure, but like 100% in a game that deals with large numbers isn't that big of a deal. Oath of Devotion reads as all she gets is 70 health, which is unfortunate. They need to change this. Because, yes, at this specific upgrade, when you select this, she gets 70 health. But over the course of all of her upgrades, she gets far more health overall. All of her health upgrades are higher. So she becomes far more tanky. She also gets her health share ability, which is what allows her to make your whole team more survivable. It gives them a portion of her health. Overall, this is the tanking spec, and if you're not choosing this, she's gonna fall over pretty quickly. The higher you upgrade her, she's just not gonna have the health to go with it. Vengeance is just kind of, hi, I'm not actually tanking with Nyelli. She's just in my formation as a buffer. That's really it. So, make sure you're using her tanking spec if you actually, care about survivability, which you should. Again, one of her bigger buffs, like that stacking buff that from enemies, based on her surviving. So the longer she can survive, the better. Longer she can survive, the better. That's it. Here's the Aura of Heroism. This is the health share. You get that at 280. It's a ways up there, so she doesn't really help your team out too much until you get her fairly leveled up. After that, you know, the usual just upgrades. Nyelli is one of the few champions in the game that has just a fantastic shorter cooldown. Crowd control. This is it does, obviously it's a damage dealing. She jumps and deals massive damage to an enemy, but she stuns all enemies on the screen for a short period of time. It's pretty fantastic. It's a 30-second cooldown when you have a maxed ultimate cooldown item. That means it's a 2-minute cooldown normally, because maxed cooldown is 75% of the time, so makes it easy to figure out. So 2-minute cooldown, full screen wide stun. This is a big deal for some bosses. Devourer, I'm looking at you. You just don't want Devourer to devour anyone. So having a screen wide stun is a big deal. Item wise, you get damage all champions. You get a health item, which is nice to have on tanks. If you don't have one on a tank, are they a tank? You get Aura of Courage item. You get an Aura of Protection item. Then ultimate attack damage and ultimate attack cooldown. Right. So really straightforward as a core champion. We've got damage all. She's got a lot of feats because she's been around a while. A lot of damage all champs. So if you want to buff just straight up for support, she's got a couple health feats. 60% one being the big one. That one's actually like a 50k gem feat. Aura of Courage. We've got some Overwhelm if you need Overwhelm for survival. And then the Cobalt pack comes with Shield of Faith, which is the first Aura of Protection feat. And it's a whopper. So there you go. Let's talk about Makos next. Again, Makos, core champion. Slot 9. Eldritch Blast, base attack. The slowest basic attack animation in the game. Yeah. They're DPS support gold, Tiefling Warlock, neutral evil. Honestly, you're really going to be... I mean, most of the time, you're really just going to be using Makos as a support because of the long animation. If you watch Eldritch Blast, it's just a real long animation, which makes killing things real slow, and it's single target. Using Makos as DPS is challenging. Let's play in the game on hard mode. But as a support, they're great. And the key thing to remember with them is the gold part of this doesn't, well, we'll talk about it, but it doesn't really trigger unless you choose a specific specialization, which we can talk about right away because that's the first thing you get. Their whole kit is basically based around their specs. You either go Dark Luck or Dark Blessing. And a lot like with Nyelli. Nyelli is a holdover from like when they first started making champions, and you choose a specialization path, and the upgrades along those specialization paths are different based on the specialization you chose. Well, it's the same with Makos, unfortunately. So we're going to talk about Makos. Do I need to? I don't think. You know what? I'm going to double check. Off the top of my head, it's been a while since I looked at Nyelli. Let me make sure she doesn't have a different upgrade under Oath of Vengeance. I don't think she does. Makos has different upgrade paths. Nope, she just leaves out the health share. That's right. Okay. That's what I thought. But I wanted to double check for you because it's been so long since I ran Oath of Vengeance. All right. So Dark Luck is the one we're going to look at first. It causes Makos to deal more damage, so this is a straight up damage bonus because this is the DPS spec. Dark Blessing is the support spec. When Makos lands the killing blow on an enemy, the enemy drops a lot more gold. This is kind of the gold feature of Makos. And the follow-up bonuses to this just make it even more specific and allow you to generate a lot of gold with a specific setup. So it's really, this is Dark Luck. Hey, this is your big deal. Until you get to 95, Eldritch Academy increases the effect of Dark Luck by 100% for each evil or warlock champion in the formation. Now, again, Dark Luck does damage and gold find. So if you build around Makos, not only with evil or warlock champions, you're increasing their damage. You're increasing their damage, but you're also increasing the gold they generate. If you were to build a full formation around, just around pushing with Makos, and you had a lot of strong supports and tanks that were evil or warlocks, the damage bonus is solid. The gold find bonus is solid. The problem is, again, like I said before, it's kind of hard mode because single target attacks. Really slow single target attacks. Like it's a 5-second cooldown roughly, but the animation on the attack just takes forever. But that's it, folks. As a core champion, they are super straightforward. They have one of the most unique leveling schemes. It's literally, for a while, it's just they go up 5 levels at a time. So as you can see, even maxed out, I'm at 405 here, whereas Nyelli's over 1,000 for the same amount of gold. So they were experimenting a lot with, like, hey, what if you just don't put a lot of levels in someone? It still costs a lot. And your power goes up accordingly. But it's just a different kind of leveling scheme. The ultimate is called Circle of Death. Circle of Death, a sphere of negative energy ripples out from a random enemy, causing that enemy and all enemies near it to take massive damage. Let's see if we can get it. Well, we're not going to be able to. It's a big purple circle. Yeah, it didn't really show up. But it just kind of goes, pooh. This is actually what a lot of people will use. If you're early on, before you get a Zaka, and for some reason you want a gold farm, like set up a very specific gold farm, you did it with Makos farming. Before Azaka existed, Makos farming was all we had. We had to gold farm uphill both ways in the snow. And basically what that meant was you ran Makos, you had them in Dark Luck, you let a bunch of enemies build up on the tank, and then you popped Circle of Death. And you let that just go boom, and all the gold and tons of extra gold, bonus gold, fell to the ground, and you picked it up, and then you had to wait. Well, you had to wait for the cooldown, but you also had to wait for 100 enemies to build up on the tank again, or as many as you could survive. Right? That was the OG gold farming. It's not the greatest. It is a little easier now because you can put Makos in that Dark Luck spec, but still have them not be your DPS. As odd as that might sound, they do get some damage all champions bonuses as they're leveling up, so they can still kind of support even though they don't have Dark Blessing. And then you can build up a lot of enemies on your tank, pop the ultimate, and because the ultimate is what's killing them, it'll trigger the extra gold find. Don't know that it's super relevant anymore, but it is something you can do. Okay, let's talk about the Dark Blessing spec, which is probably where most people are going to spend their time. So Dark Blessing increases the damage of champions not adjacent to Makos by a large amount. That's it. That's your placement cue. Just don't put them next to your DPS. Don't put them next to your DPS. This is also nice if you're trying to build a patron formation and you want to buff a specific champion, but for some reason that champion maybe doesn't do the greatest damage in the world, and you've got supports that are outdoing them. Well, you just make sure that Makos is adjacent to those supports, but not adjacent to the DPS, and suddenly suddenly you've given that DPS a nice little damage boost. Formation building 101, folks. The other effect they have is called Draw Power. I'll be honest, I have never, in the now 5 years of playing this game, never built around Draw Power ever. Increase the effect of Dark Blessing by 100% if Makos is not on the edge of the formation. It's never been a thing. There's never been a time where I'm like, sure, I'll take 100% more damage by putting them in a place and then putting my DPS in a weird position. Because most of the time, the only place that's not an edge is probably next to wherever your DPS is going to be. And it's only 100%. So draw power isn't really something you should focus on. It's not a big deal. Just Dark Blessing, non-adjacent. Items, damage of Makos, 2 of them. They went all in on Makos because he only has 1 ability. They're like, all right, well, let's give him 2 self-damage items. Then there's a damage all champions item. So this is a very rare setup for champions. There's 1 item that buffs both Dark Luck and Dark Blessing at the same time to make it easy on you. Ultimate attack damage, ultimate attack cooldown. Feats, damage all champions. You've got gold, just straight up increased gold found. There's damage from Makos, and then there's a new with this pack. Dark Promise increases the effect of Makos' Dark Luck and Dark Blessing abilities by 80%. That's real nice. That's a nice one for him. That's a nice one for him. They put some decent feats in this pack. I will give that to them. Let's talk about Tyral next. Tyral, everybody's favorite tanky, healing, and support, right? Right? The Furbolg Druid, neutral good from Force Grey. Force Grey. Basic attack is Shillelagh. They smack the closest enemy with their staff. Yeah, that's it. That's what they do. Tyral, again, as we can tell, we're talking about 3 core champions. So we're talking about 3 very early designs of champions. Where when you take a specialization path, there are markedly different functionalities and even different upgrades. Well, Tyral's part of that too. So Moonbeam is the support feat, is the support specialization. Wild Shape is the tanking specialization. It's very difficult to, I mean, you can, I've tanked with Moonbeam before, but it's less than ideal. Usually you want to tank with Wild Shape and you want to support with Moonbeam. So Moonbeam increases the damage of all champions by an amount. But that amount gets reduced depending on the number of adjacent champions. So ideally, this is a formation building indicator. Ideally you want somewhere where Tyral is adjacent to, well, ideally you want them adjacent to no one. But it's rare that happens. If you are doing a variant where there are escorts and there is one formation, like if there were escorts in these 2 slots that I'm moving Kreidel back and forth with, you could put Tyral back here and it doesn't count those escorts as anybody. So you would have him adjacent to 0 and be getting his biggest support buff. But usually you're going to have him adjacent to 1 or 2. You do not want him really adjacent to 3. You definitely don't want him in the middle of a formation. Which is interesting because there's a function of the Moonbeam spec that we're going to talk about next that makes you think like you want that. Like, maybe I want that? You don't usually want that. Druidic Healing heals champions adjacent to Tyral for an amount every second. Yeah, Tyral's a healer. Only when Tyral's in Moonbeam spec. And the vast majority of the time, you don't kind of want to place him for that, because that means he's probably adjacent to a lot of people. So just understand, I mean, maybe you need it, though. Maybe your tank needs that survivability for that ramping feature we were talking about. And the trade-off is, yes, you lose some damage from Moonbeam, but you make it up with the ramping bonus from the tank. It's possible. Understand the pros and cons of Tyral with the way Moonbeam and Druidic Healing works. Just understand there's a give and take there. There could be situations where it's beneficial for you to use him as a healer, but usually you're just wanting the damage. But know that, the Idle Champions is a game of exceptions. There's only one hard, fast rule of Idle Champion, and that's that every rule has an exception, including that one. But that's it, folks. As you can see, I'm scrolling forever, and there's nothing else here. Because the core champions are real straightforward. They're designed to be really simple and easy to use, because they're your starter champions, right? They don't want things too complex. So that's Moonbeam. The ultimate, when in Moonbeam form, is different than when in wild shape. Sunbeam. A beam of brilliant light flashes out from Tyral's offhand and hits all enemies in a line, targeting a random enemy. So it targets a random enemy, and then everything in a line gets hit. Let's see if we can... There it goes. It's pretty cool. Let's switch over to Le Wild Shape. Wild Shape. Tyral transforms into a bear. This is in his base skin. Grants him a bunch of extra health and increases his overwhelm point by 20 because, folks, stop it. Stop it, familiar. When he starts off, his overwhelm's only 5 because, again, when he's kind of normal and in Moonbeam, he's not a tank. But once we pop him into Wild Shape, he's a tank. 25 overwhelm. It's a solid overwhelm point. The ultimate changes to Shielding Bite. This ultimate is actually, if we move Tyral up to the front, like a tank, this ultimate, despite... Core champions aren't necessarily meant to be your end-game champions. They're meant to be your starter champions. You use them, you unlock other options, and then those other options are better for you. However, sometimes there are exceptions. Tyral is one of those exceptions because of Shielding Bite. Shielding Bite, Tyral leaps to the nearest enemies, so either one or more enemies, bites them, so it's an AoE. It's kind of a small AoE. Bites them with the huge jaw, and based on the enemies hit or killed, meaning the number of enemies hit or killed, gains a damage shield that slowly fades over time. So Tyral actually gets a percent of his health as a shield for every enemy that he hits with the bite. So the more enemies on the screen that are piled up on this massive tank, the bigger the shield he creates. This is a self-shield. I have the cooldown maxed out. So, again, max cooldown reduction is 75%. That means this is normally a 4-minute cooldown. This does say the damage shield slowly fades over time. The amount of that time is roughly 60 seconds. So early on in your experience with Tyral, he's not going to be he'll be tanky when the shield stays up, but because the shield has, a 2, 3, 4-minute cooldown, once the shield goes away, he's going to fall over. So if you don't kill everything by the time shield goes away, you're not moving forward. However, once you get his items, his item levels up there, so you either get his ultimate to a shiny 251 or to just a regular epic like 502, and it's capped at 60 seconds. Once you get there, he can keep his shield up constantly, as long as he's not taking more damage than the shield obviously protects. But it can become so large because it is a percentage of his health and not a flat value that when you're looking at, here, EO8 of a shield, and then you're getting, say, I want to say it's like 10% per champion. So if you have 50 enemies, 10% per enemy. So if you have 50 enemies that you bite, that's 500% of his health as a shield, which means you're getting, massive amounts of shield that's far larger than his health. Getting enemies through that in most situations is difficult until you get very, very, very high in the game. So for me, because I have that cooldown going on, see, there's the shield. Massive shield, and I didn't even hit that many enemies, right? For me, Tyral's one of the top tanks in the game because he is incredibly survivable because of that shield. And a super deep pushing formation, like 1200 plus, only functions on the back of Tyral, even if Tyral isn't in wild shape, isn't buffing the DPS. Because let's talk about Tyral's buffs. First off, so that was wild shape. Nature's heroism is his health share. That's the survivability feature. Wild inspiration increases the damage of champions within 2 slots of Tyral. I'm going to call this out. That does not say 2 columns behind him. That says within 2 slots. There are situations in this game, Valindra Shadow Mantle. There are situations in this game where you may want Tyral in your formation for his health share, because he has a massive amount of health, and sharing it is good. And you want his buffs, but you don't really want him at the front of the formation. You may want him in the back because enemies may never build up on the tank line, so you don't need the tanks up front. Right? And Tyral can buff as long as he's within 2 of the DPS. So keep that in mind. For Wild Inspiration specifically, he can still provide a buff within 2. Wild Resilience. This reduces the damage taken by Tyral by an amount. Can't be reduced to below 25% of initial damage. On paper, this seems like it would be neat. It only really matters when you're newer, because this is a flat value, and 120 means nothing when you're super deep. Like super high area levels. Forces of Good. This increases the damage of good champions by 100% for each enemy attacking Tyral and or each enemy in rage stack. So once again, this is not positional. This one is not positional. This one is, but just within 2, so it doesn't even have to be behind. This one is just for all good champions. So Tyral really prefers to buff good champions. He will buff them more. But again, like I said, at some point, because of his survivability, you may just want him anyway because he's going to be the one that's alive, that can stay alive the longest. That's it for Wild Shape. As I said, I use Wild Shape a lot. I like Tyral in general. I use Tyral a lot, either in Moonbeam, even now, even in Moonbeam or Wild Shape. Despite being a core champion, he's just real solid. Real solid. Item-wise, odd placement for it, but slot 1 is the health item. Then you get the 2 damage all champions items. For the support features, we get a combo item that's Moonbeam and Wild Inspiration at the same time. Then there's ultimate attack damage, and of course the ultimate cooldown item that really makes him super tank. Super tank. Feat-wise, we get damage all champions, we get health. There's a Moonbeam feat. There's Druidic Healing, which I don't think I've ever used in 5 years. There's a single Overwhelm one. Wow, they did add another Druidic Healing feat at some point. Yeah, all right. Bearable is the new feat that comes with the pack. Oh, God, I love it. Bearable. It's finally a tanking feat. We've never had a tanking feat outside. Like, it's a tanking buff because it's for Wild Inspiration. Tyral's only ever had, like, a party buff that's Moonbeam. Usually I run Tyral with, like, 30% health and Moonbeam. Or Moonbeam, I should say. I would usually run him like 25% champs damage and then either health for tanking or Moonbeam buff. But now I'll end up picking this up, and I'll now have a decent taking feat for Hero to go for Tyral. For Hero Tyral. That's a skin. We need superhero skins. Health. I'll run health and bearable. Now that's just gonna be the thing. Bearable. Shout out to skins, though. Keep in mind, Tyral's, depending on what skin you have for Tyral's wild shape form changes. So champion Tyral, still a bear, but has some neat stuff going on, right? Then things get a little different. Icewind Dale Tyral, the moose is loose. The moose is loose, folks, for Icewind Dale Tyral. It's pretty great. Celestial Tyral tends to be where I keep my Tyral. And people are always like, who's that tank? It's a unicorn, folks. It's a unicorn. So Tyral has some great features. Yeah. Tyral's pretty great. All right, let me move this around because now this formation looks strange. All right, folks, we're going to talk about now a couple of the champions from Baldur's Gate. Kreidel and Shandy. So this is the Heroes of Baldur's Gate affiliation. This is kind of an odd affiliation because it originally started off as just the champions that were in the Heroes of Baldur's Gate comics. And then later, they just threw anybody and everybody that was in like the Baldur's Gate games and stuff into this affiliation as well. So it doesn't really have necessarily a cohesiveness to it, except for those comic characters to a certain degree. So just understand that. Kreidel's attack, reverse pickpocket. Kreidel attacks a random enemy with his daggers. He also sneaks a smoke powder bomb onto their person, which explodes after 3 seconds. Because why not? That's fun. Why not? First ability, From the Shadows. This increases the damage of all champions in the back 2 columns of the formation by an amount. This effect is quadrupled on Heroes of the Baldur's Gate, including Kreidel himself. This ability was specifically created for Delina. This is a support ability for Delina, but it's also just, a neat kind of buff to change up your formation placement. Because we always had lots of things that buff the column in front of you, or maybe they buff the column or 2 behind you, but it was never like, hey, let's just the back 2 columns. Place the DPS all the way in the back. Yeah. So it's neat. It's neat and unusual in that regard. Kreidel's next ability, and this is the funky one. We're just going to call it funky because it's strange. He has a DPS support. I didn't mention that. Half elf rogue chaotic good. This one is an either or. This is an either or ability. Either you're building around Kreidel as DPS or you're building around Kreidel as support, and he wants very specific things for that. Kreidel provides buffs based on the charisma scores of other champions in the formation. Lead with Flare. This is the DPS a bit portion. Kreidel's damage is increased by 200% for each champion in the formation with a charisma score of 12 to 16. So ideally, all of the champions supporting Kreidel have charisma 12 to 16. It doesn't usually work out that way. Ultimately, what you want is just the best supports for Kreidel, and that they may not fit in this window. Wild cards. This one matters if you're using Kreidel as a support because it's kind of, this is one support feature. It's not that big if they're not at Baldur's Gate. It's not a big feature. This is the bigger one. Kreidel increases the damage of champions with a charisma score of 11 and lower or 17 and higher. So you either have to have garbage charisma or the best charisma for Kreidel to buff you as a DPS. If you are not in that band, Kreidel, if your DPS is not either 11 or lower or 17 or higher, Kreidel shouldn't really be the support you're using. Which makes him very specific, obviously. He wants to support very specific people. He wasn't built for everybody. Thieves can't, but Kreidel can. Thieves can't increase the effect of charismatic leader. It's Saturday, folks. This is what happens. Increases the effect of charismatic leader by 400% for each rogue in the formation, stacking multiplicatively, but buffs apply to the post-stack value. Now, remember, though, charismatic leader is this real finicky one. So you may be able to build a formation with a lot of rogues, but if you're not meeting this requirement over here, didn't really matter that much. So yeah, he is real finicky. Close-up magic or training camp. So close-up magic increases the effect of Kreidel's charismatic leader lead with flair. So this is his DPS buff. Training camp increases charismatic leader wild cards. It's the same amount either way. You're just choosing, am I going to be a DPS or am I going to be a support? I will say I have done Kreidel DPS. Oh no. Now I have to double check. I have done Kreidel DPS recently. How did it do? He's in the kind of middle of the pack. He's functional. He's functional. I consider middle of the pack kind of functional. He just doesn't super. He's not super shiny. He doesn't shine super hard. And ultimately, the function of that is he's just real finicky to build around. And the Heroes of Baldur's Gate really don't. Like, putting a bunch of Heroes of Baldur's Gate in the formation doesn't really make Kreidel better. But he can support them if they are DPS. So, yeah. There you go. Item-wise, oh wait, let's talk about the ultimate. Distracted Strike. Kreidel appears from the shadows behind a random enemy and brutally backstabs it for massive damage. The damage of this attack is increased by 200% for each hero of Baldur's Gate in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. So this can be a big, if you're running Heroes of Baldur's Gate formation, this could be a big number, which is neat. Item-wise, a damage item and a damage all champions item because he is DPS/support. Kreidel's from the shadows. Kreidel's charismatic leader, so buffing the major abilities as long as you make this one work. Ultimate attack damage, ultimate cooldown. Feats are damage all champions, self damage. It gets a couple from the shadows, and a couple charismatic leader. Silver Tongued is the new one, so that's the 80% with this bundle. 80% with this bundle. I see people talking. I'm going to address this real quick. So there are multiple DPS in the Heroes of Baldur's Gate. Delina and Minsk are the ones that are technically from the comics with Kreidel. Kreidel can buff both Delina and Minsk. That's what these things are targeting. Minsk is below 11 charisma. And oh no, Delina's over here. And Delina is 17. So they are. That is kind of where that is why there is that middle section of 12 to 16 is because the outsides of that were Delina and Minsk. Now Jaheira is also got thrown into this, but her charisma does not allow her to be buffed by Kreidel, unfortunately. But she can support Kreidel. So there you go. All right, that's Kreidel. On to Shandy, the hero of Baldur's Gate. That's the Bardic Inspiration song. Shandy, halfling rogue, Catacud, support and speed champion. Shandy is a unique speed champion. She is currently the only champion in the game whose speed ability speeds up the whole game like a speed potion does. In fact, her bonus counts in the multipliers for speed potions, so having her plus speed potions means you need fewer types of speed potions, like fewer sizes to hit the cap of 10x speed. Short bow expert. Shandy fires an arrow at a random enemy. That's the basic attack. Survivalist is the ultimate. Shandy bends the odds in the party's favor, throwing smoke grenades and caltrops onto the battlefield, causing enemies to take the ultimate's full damage over 10 seconds, and having a 50% chance to miss their attacks during that time. So yes, there is a damage component to this, but keep in mind, the big deal is 50% of missing all their attacks. That's nice. That's rare. That's not something we get a lot of. So Shandy has some nice abilities. Here's what it looks like. Shandy has some nice abilities. I like them. I like them a lot. First up, Agile Allies increase the damage of champions within 2 slots of Shandy. Again, that doesn't say, this specific one doesn't say in front, behind, to the side, just within 2 slots. 100% for each champion adjacent to Shandy with a dex of 15 or higher. So Shandy wants to be adjacent to as many high dex people as possible to really buff this a lot. To really buff Agile Allies a lot. Dash is the next ability. Dash is the speed ability. Increases the game speed by 25% when the formation hasn't been under attack for 60 seconds. So this only works in early levels where the formation doesn't get hit by anything. A ranged enemy can shut this off. Just as it loads in, it could potentially fire if you don't kill it immediately, and there goes your speed. That's just the thing. You know who helps with that? Rosie Bee Stinger. I'm not saying that you should put Rosie in your speed formations to keep Shandy's speed active, but I'm not saying it. Explosive arrow. Shandy fires explosive arrows when the formation is under attack. So this is a neat feature. This is a lot like tanks. Usually, like what we talked about with Nyelli and Tyral, they buff your party when they become under attack. Well, Shandy buffs your party just when anyone in the party starts taking damage. She's going to start firing explosive arrows. For each enemy she hits, Shandy increases the damage of the column in front of her by an amount. So it becomes basically as enemies start building up, she's shooting into that thing, it explodes. All the enemies that get hit then count as multipliers for the buff. So the more enemies that are building up, the more explosive arrow buffs. Now this does have a placement indicator. Now this one, it said just within 2 slots. But now you know that you want within 2 slots and in the column behind your DPS. Please keep that in mind. You want Shandy within 2 slots and in the column behind your DPS. You want both of those things to maximize Shandy's buffs. Just know that explosive arrow isn't going to kick in until you get far enough in your adventure that the enemies are actually attacking your formation. Okay. Specializations help you with the functionality here. Ranger training is where I spend most of my time because this increases the effective dash by 100%. So instead of a 25% speed up to the game, it's 50%. Oh yeah. Alchemist Fire is the next one. This buffs the effect of explosive arrow, so that's that ramping damage. It's going to double it. Criminal Contacts, though, is I think people usually do this if they can build the right formation. It's very finicky. Agile Allies gets increased by 50% for each neutral or evil champion next to Shandy. So if you've set up Shandy with a lot of high dex people adjacent to her and they're also neutral or evil, this could be where you want to go. If not, then for damage you'd go Alchemist Fire, right? We're gonna go Ranger Training because, like I said, that tends to be where I spend all my time. But that's because I use Shandy a lot for speed. I tend to change it then when I get to my wall to whatever I need. So now dash, if we look at dash, you can see it's modified to 50%. 50%. Now this is the nice thing about Shandy and what makes Shandy a great starter speed champion. Shandy doesn't need items for her speed effect, for her full speed effect. You just have to pick the specialization. Yeah. So you get the full benefit of Shandy, even if you have no gear on her whatsoever when it comes to speed. So as a speed champion, she's very new player friendly. in the sense that it kicks in right away. She doesn't require an investment. That's what I should say. Item-wise, pair of damage all champions items. We get explosive arrow. We get agile allies. So again, everything here except for the speed effect, because that'd be broken. Ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown. Feat-wise, she's got some stat feats. We'll get to that. We have damage all champions. We have explosive arrow. We have a lot of agile allies because they like that one. Here's the new one. Is another explosive arrow, so that's nice. So we get explosive arrow up to 80% if you really want that ramping feature to trigger. But then we have a wisdom and a charisma modifier here. So the charisma can take you up to 16. This I almost said this is for Kreidel, but it's not, because Shandy's not a DPS. This is for something, and off the top of my head, I can't remember what. Hold on. Oh, folks. I was doing so good. Oh, it is up to 15. Okay. But why? Hold on. I'll figure out why in a second. I've got notes for this. Off the top of my head, I can't remember why. Hitch only needs 14, I believe. But again, she's not a DPS. She's not a DPS. Shandy. What you doing, girl? What you doing, girl? I put notes for this stuff in my guides, and so I'm just... Well, usually I do. Oh, I didn't update this one. Nope. Dunno. Dunno. The wisdom +1. I know what this one is. This is for Narak, folks. This is for Githzerai Focus. This is for Githzerai Focus. So, Githzerai Focus on Narak, if you use him in combination with Shandy and place him adjacent, it will boost her formation abilities. So that's nice. That's nice. This is probably a variant of some kind. This is probably a variant of some kind. Because remember, yeah, okay, this would cause her to support Kreidel. That's what's going on. It would get her to 16, and she could buff Kreidel. So that's what it is. I knew it was in there for something. So, but there's probably a variant somewhere, and then the charisma is going to get her. Well, no, it doesn't. It's only 15. That doesn't make sense because I have it slotted. I don't know, folks. Ask the developers on Dev Insights. This is probably just early on. Hey, let's throw out some stat feats, and yeah, it wasn't great. Wasn't great. Well, no, but hold on. Now I also have the wisdom in, so that doesn't get her enough for. Are those working? Yeah, they are. I don't know what these are for. Then never mind. It's gotta be a variant somewhere. So it's not Narak. She doesn't work with Narak. Because I already have them slotted for reasons. Yeah, I don't know. That's a little confusing. Apologies, folks. It happens. All right, now we're going to swap Shandy out of the formation because we need to talk about Reya. We need to talk about Reya because, yeah, there's 6 champions. Once again, we're talking about Pack Antics Series 2. All 6 of these champions. And 2 of them are in the same slot. So say hello to Reya, folks. Reya is an evergreen champion. What does that mean? That means you unlock her just by playing through the campaigns. She is one of the evergreen. She is an evergreen. She is the only currently evergreen in the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus campaign. She's unlocked towards the end of the campaign. She's a human/celestial paladin, lawful good, pure support. Base attack, Sword of Zariel. Reya leaps out and slashes at a random enemy, cleaving nearby enemies as well. So it is a bit of a small AoE. As a paladin, as a lawful good paladin, shocker, she's going to like lawful or good people and be real good against certain enemies. So Searing Radiance, Reya imbues adjacent champions with her Searing Radiance, causing their attacks to deal more damage. This effect is quadrupled against fiends. Guess what you find a lot of in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, folks? Fiends. So really at her best, at her most radiant when fighting against fiends. Again, the Q here, placement Q here is adjacency. So she just wants to be adjacent to the DPS. Echoes of Zariel. The gaze of Zariel turns from Reya and sweeps across the formation. You can see it on Makos right there. Oh, now it's done. It's this little spotlight thing that's moving around. This is the gaze of Zariel. Looking at a random number of unique champions before returning to Reya. Once it returns to Reya, it increases the effect of Searing Radiance by 104, by an amount. For each champion it looked at, including Reya, stacking multiplicatively. You can see the numbers over here. It'll even tell you who they're watching. It's going to be 4 stacks when it returns. I'm currently at 5 stacks. I get a large number. Well, at 5, it was in the EO6 range. At 4, it's EO5. You can affect this in a bit, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, it's going to look at random champions when you first get it. Celestial Champion. All lawful aligned champions' damage is increased by a large amount. So again, she's a lawful good paladin. All good aligned champions' damage is increased by a large amount. This is all under one ability. Guess what, folks? If they're lawful good, it double dips. It double dips. This is by design. Originally, this was an adjustment that was made not too long ago to her kit, because originally she only buffed lawful good champions, which it was like, hey, Binwin, want to run with Reya? So now it's lawful or good, which allows her to be a support for a wider variety of champions. But in those cases where you do want to use a lawful good champion, you get double. You get to double dip. You get to double dip. But just know now that it could be lawful or good. Gives you a lot more options. Now, specializations are champions of good or champions of law. This affects Echoes of Zariel, and they give you the nice little math down here, this is one of those cases where the numbers are actually helpful. Basically, Echoes of Zariel is guaranteed to look at all champions in the formation that are of one of these alignments, whichever one you choose, before returning to Reya. You want to put this on the largest number. So in this case, I have 4 good champions. I would select that because that's going to make that buff, guarantee that buff is at least at that minimum level, but potentially higher, right? So just know that that's the queue you want for the specializations. Just go with the larger number. Again, it's going to be based off either good or lawful champions in the formation. So building a formation, in an ideal situation, you would build a formation that is either has good or lawful champions in it, as many as possible, right? One or the other, or both. Ultimate, yeah, that's all we have left. Okay, ultimate is Avatar of Zariel. Reya launches to the sky. She lands by slamming the sword of this. It's in all caps. I gotta say it. Slamming the sword of Zariel into the ground with a shockwave, summoning Zariel and her friend Lulu. While Reya communes with Zariel, Lulu zips around the board. The board. Zariel zips around the screen, putting all enemies to sleep for 10 seconds. While the enemies are asleep and Reya remains in her pose, the champions deal massive damage against them. So that means the rest of your formation gets a massive damage boost. When the 10 seconds is complete, Reya removes the sword and swings it in a massive circle, which then does a lot of the damage. So here's what it looks like, folks. Boom. She's communing. Lulu, the Hollyphant, zipping around the screen. Massive damage bonus, and then she's going to fall back. Now. So you get about 15 seconds. You get about 15 seconds of massive damage boost. All right, item-wise, damage all champions, a pair of them. We get Searing Radiance. We get Echoes of Zariel. We also get Celestial Champion. So she has a lot of items. She doesn't buff her ultimate attack damage because that's not what she used her ultimate attack for. She gets the cooldown because you basically just want to hit it as often as possible. It is a power boost button for your formation. So she is a very item efficient champion in that she is buffing, or making a buff available more often. Feat wise, damage all champions. We get Searing Radiance. We get Echoes of Zerial, a bunch of them. The key here is these two increase the effect, but this one increases the pre-stack bonus, because sometimes this is a thing. If you have a lot of stacks of Echoes of Zerial, this feat is going to be nice because multiplying a pre-stack bonus is great when there's lots of stacks. If you don't have lots of stacks of Echoes of Zerial, you're probably going to want to go with something else. Also, the newest feat is Aspect of Zerial. That comes with the pack. It's the Searing Radiance by 80%. And Searing Radiance, again, that's just her adjacency buff. That's her adjacency buff. So that's everybody. Again, this is Pack Antics Series 2. Kobolds in Space. No, Spelljammer is I think, I don't know. It's a Spelljammer themed thing. So here's what they're gonna look like if you get the skins and slot them. This one gets me every time. There's also a separate pack, so you can buy them all separately. It's a lot more money to buy them all separately. But if you just wanted a specific one, like if you were a fan of, I don't know, legally distinct Space Marines with chain swords, you could just get that one. Martin has been pulling questions from chat, so we're going to come back in a moment to address those. But first, we're going to take a short musical interlude. And I believe this is Spelljammin', the song for Spelljammer. So enjoy, folks. I'll be right back.
Cruising into the sea of night as my naughty lord's taking flight. Them pirates got me in their sight, oh no. All aboard for a trip to the stars, sailing planet winds on a space card. Space Dragon's treasure's gonna be ours, let's go. Whether you're a gift merchant or gift, everyone is welcome on the skiff. Spelljammin', no planning. Spelljammin', on the ship we're hanging. So much bigger than your hometown. Don't look back as we look to ground. Keep an eye out for the space clowns, oh no. Watch out for hamsters, both giant and small. Gonna claim your ship as their own space ball. Better run before we get mauled, gotta go. Viking has a king or even space go. Everyone is welcome on this boat. Spelljammin', no planning. Spelljammin', on
And we're back, folks. I would be remiss in not pointing out to people who do not already know that this Wednesday, September 7th, Bardic Inspiration Volume 3 drops. It will be available exclusively in the jukebox. So you're going to want to check that out. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But now we're going to hit up the questions. We're going to hit the ones that are on topic first. I do want to point something out that I forgot, because I didn't even realize it was a thing for a while. Again, all of these champions in this pack, most of them are core or event champions. So Shandy and Kreidel were event champions. The rest were core champions, except for Reya. Reya's an evergreen. When you have a bundle like this, or you have a pack in the store that lets you get something, like this, you'll note here that it's just the skin. It's just the skin for Reya. Whereas if I come back up here to this, it's the skin and the champion, right? Well, that's because the only way to get Reya is to actually complete the adventure in the game. So you can buy the skin will be there, but to get Reya, you have to come to Avernus. You have to make your way all the way down here to this adventure node. And you need to do Reya Reborn, which is off the Idle Glen adventure. Which means you got to complete 40 Descent into Avernus adventures or variants. It's a high area goal, 625, and it's got some strength and charisma restrictions. This is basically patron Zariel restrictions. And it's not easy. There's a whole fiend thing with buffs. I've got a guide for that. This weekend, for a very short period of time, but also this weekend, and ending on Wednesday, September 7th, there is a 50% bonus to favor earnings in Descent into Avernus to help you go unlock Reya. Basically, to make sure that you have as much favor as possible and as many blessings as possible to try to progress through Avernus and unlock Reya. So, if you have not yet done so, now and you're in a place in your progress where that's something you might be able to pull off, it's a good time to do it. If you've already done that, hey, favor bonus. Yay. Yay. This is the first time we've ever just had a flat campaign-wide favor bonus. Lajos Murtra, this pack changes the appearance to Cobalt, but do they count as Cobalt? No. It's visual only. Currently, there's all skins are visual only. The only things that change the functionality of a champion are feats, and there are some feats that that kind of do things that are like there's a that are in relation to a skin, but they don't require the skin. Artemis has one. His part shade, his shade skin. He has a feat that goes along with that. There's also Archon has one for the Hand of Vecna. But it's feats that are going to change things. Currently, the only feat that changes a character, doesn't change him, but it allows him to count as a different race, is Mahen, who is a Dragonborn, has a feat that allows him to count as a Tiefling, because his adopted daughters are Tieflings. But that's currently the only feat like that we have in the game. Narwhals in a trench coat. How many narwhals in a trench coat? Do we know the artist credit for these skins? This is Cat. Skelevan. I think Skelevan on Twitter. They've been on some shows recently. They were recently on the Sketching Hour. Yeah. Cat does great art. Yeah. All but Kreidel. All but Kreidel. I don't know who did Kreidel's. Let's see. Anything else? Maxi Cubert, regarding Tyral, is the auto shield benefiting from the patron perk buffing healing? I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. I know they count. I know they call Tyral a healing champion because of, well, he does have a heal, but they count shielding champions like temp HP shield champions as healing in this game, even though it's not. But they just, yeah, that's what they classify them under. I do not know. I honestly don't know. I've never considered that. What we're talking about is perk up, increases the healing received by tank champions by 50%. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. You might want to ask the devs about that one. Lash68, how does one obtain Shandy? Shandy is I want to say a time gate only champion now. Let me double check. Yes. She's a year 2 champion, so she's only available at time gates or by purchasing this Pack Antics Series 2 bundle pack, which is what we're talking about today. That would unlock her as well. That would unlock her as well. All right, that's it. I guess everybody, again, these champions are fairly straightforward, so I think everybody was good on the champions. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to start hitting all of the general questions. All of the general questions. Yeah, I did say I have a guide for that. I need to hydrate. All right, heading back up to the top. Lasmo69. I always look at the average DPS meter, not always the best. We always look at the average DPS meter, and not always the best team comp if the DPS meter is higher. I have a champ. She adds 300% DPS for my team, but the average DPS is lower with it. Okay, yeah, let's just get this out of the way real quick, folks. Base DPS and average DPS are kind of garbage numbers. Base DPS is a flat-out lie, and if you hover over base right here, this may be you may not realize there are tooltips here. Time to rock your world. If you hover over this tooltip, it says, "Hi, I'm a flat lie. I'm a liar." Believe people when they tell you who they are, folks. Base DPS is a liar. It says a static version of your base DPS. Base DPS is not dynamically affected by timed or random events, stacking, or enemy debuffs. Instead, static modifiers are used to represent those upgrades. But those may not be accurate at all. Useful to compare formations. Is it? Well, it may not fully reflect total damage done to enemies. Yeah, so it's not that useful, is it? Running average is a little better. It's trying to be better. Your average DPS, computed as a running average of recent attacks from each champion, will more accurately reflect the damage you are doing. But could increase or decrease for reasons that are not immediately apparent and may not instantly update when you purchase upgrades, move champions, etc. Yeah. Because it's averaging an amount over a certain amount of time. And if you spike anywhere in there for some reason, maybe you had a bunch of enemies built up in your tank, or maybe your Krull got 20 or 30 or 40 stacks all of a sudden for pain. It throws everything off. So these are not the numbers you use for determining whether you built a good formation or not. You use a combination of two things. One, you use Bud down here. Bud is your Bud. Bud stands for base ultimate damage. It's the literal math for, it takes a hit, it divides it by your attack speed, and tells you your actual DPS per second based off that hit. And it runs off whatever the highest hit you've done recently is, and then it degrades. But you can at least see, hey, I swapped my formation out. I took out familiars so that I'm actually hitting things. Who's actually doing the damage? And right now in this formation, it's Nyelli. It's Nyelli. I don't know why. I think it's just because Tyral isn't. Oh, because I've got Makos next to Kreidel, and Tyral isn't. Oh, there we go. I had Makos next to Kreidel, so this is what I was talking about earlier. So Makos was preventing Kreidel from getting the buff, but now Makos is getting a buff too, and now Makos is going to be top TV. Oh, formation bill. That's because Makos is now getting Nyelli's buff. This is how this works, folks. Read all your placement indicators. There we go. So as I'm making changes, I can see the effect of that change if it gets better. If it gets worse, it's going to take a while to register because now it's going to take a while for this to degrade. So if I don't see things go up right away, what I can take from that is, well, that wasn't a good change. That potentially wasn't a good change. So this is one of the numbers you look at. The other number is this one up here, the area level you're on. Because sometimes your bud will go down, but you'll start progressing. It may seem odd, but at the end of the day, what matters is, did you kill the thing? If you killed the thing, then you get to move forward. If you didn't kill the thing, you don't. There are scenarios for me, I did a run with of almost all the DPS in the game, high level, 1200 plus, trying to see what kind of damage output they could all put up. And the champions, the two champions that had the highest bud actually couldn't progress. The champions that had a lower bud but featured certain champion, a certain support champion with a certain ultimate that's a little overpowered, could progress, even off of a lower bud. So at the end of the day, you want to use a combination of bud and are you progressing or not? And are you progressing or not? Because that's what the game's about. It's like, are you getting progress or not? Not just did you post the highest bud number. But did you do enough damage to actually kill things and move forward? Base DPS and average DPS aren't good at telling you that. I will say that base DPS and average DPS are better than the system the game started with. But man, that's a low bar to climb over. I don't know if they're ever going to change that. But so Lasmo, just know that, yeah, you're just kind of, you're looking at the wrong numbers, and it's because those are just the wrong numbers. I don't know. I would love to see they still feel like that's a helpful thing. I'm not sure why, and I've never really bothered to try to figure out how to fix it because that's not my job. It's not my job. Hero number 0. With the anniversary, will there be sales in the shop? I have no idea. Because I am not a full-time employee of Codename Entertainment. And even if I was, if you haven't heard about it from them, I wouldn't be able to tell you. Yeah, I have no idea. I can tell you that in the past, there have been lots of giveaways, lots of stuff. There have been lots of content drops. We already know that there's an Amazon Game Week code out there. If you haven't used it yet, it gives you the Year 3 Champion All-Star Pack for free. It's Game Week 2022. That's the numbers. Game Week 2022. Throw that into your pipe and smoke. No, but throw that into the Cryptex and unlock potentially 5 of the stronger champions in the game. It's got Krull, it's got Avrin. Wait, doesn't it have Krull? Yeah, Krull, Avrin, Nova, and 2 other people that escape me at the moment. It's a skin for Krull and 16 chests, and it's a big deal. It was a big deal. Hold on. I'm like, I don't have that right. Okay. Avrin, Krull, Havilar, Melf, and Nova. That's it. Game Week 2022. But we also, if you're on, and that's for everyone across all platforms. If you're on Steam, there's a exclusive giveaway on Steam that's Vecna's Champions of Vile Darkness pack. It's going to have Deacon, Spurt, Krull, Human, and Toragar, plus a Hand of Vecna Familiar, and 16 gold chests and 2 shinies for all of them. And yeah. So Steam's going to have a big giveaway. And then again, like I said, there's usually an anniversary meta event where there will be a little box up here that'll say, hey, anniversary. And you click on it. Every day you log in, you get free stuff. And if you log in like 4 or 5 out of the 7 days, I can't, usually it's 4 maybe, you get even more stuff. So expect things like that. Winderwind. Winderwind? Winderwind. Winderwind? Winderwind. One of those is probably correct. Last week you ranked top 6 wall pushers. For me, subjectively, for my account, I want to make this very clear. Subjectively, for my account, yes, I did. Can you remind me of your top 6 ranking, please? I'm going to take notes. Oh. This is not a tier. This is not tier list. It's a tier list because it makes me cry. Because tier lists make me cry. I put it in chat. I typed it in chat because I want to make sure the difference here. It's a tier list because it makes me cry. Because I hate tier lists. Okay, so here's what I did. I went through the game. Since we're going to talk about it, I went through the game and I was like, hey, who are my pushers? Because, folks, the one thing about Idle Champions that is a truth is that the game is subjective because nobody has the exact same stuff except when you have a brand new account with nothing on it. That's the only time you have the same situation as other people, and that's very limited, right? After that, everything can be whatever. So this takes into a lot of count. I was at level 1200 plus, so I was real high up there, which is not. I think that's only really required for trials, high level trials in Mount Tiamat right now. So a lot of champions are functional to push 900, in higher levels on my account, but I went to 1200 just to see. I have all the blessings, I have all the perks. The champs were clearly at soft cap, so no more upgrades, but not leveled beyond that. I tried to make sure I was slotting the best possible feats for the situation and the formation. I had built up stacks on ramping champions that were relevant to formations. So champions like Blushi and Nova and Corazon, they had acceptably decent number of stacks to make them relevant. And I made sure that the specs were appropriate, like specialization choices were appropriate, right? So, but you have to remember there's a lot of variability here because I was primarily using my Modest Core because my Modest Core, when I tested, it's the only one that's fully supercharged. And I'll show it to you. It's the only one that's fully supercharged. And it ended up being because of that, it ended up being the best bonuses, right? And that's because of that second number from the top. Increase the damage of all champions by 2e26. Supercharging, folks. It's no joke. So it's mostly this is with now. If there could be potential differences if I were able to supercharge all my cores to that level. I don't have the pipes for that yet. I'm working on it. And of course I have champions. I have a variety of different champions that have legendaries and some that don't. Right. So and those bonuses are all over the place. So there's a lot of subjectivity to this. So keep that in mind when I say what my top 6 champions were. Jaheira, Ashara, Krond, Catti-brie, Narak, and Zorbu. 3 of those should sound familiar to people. Ashara, Krond, and Zorbu. I feel like most people would be like, oh yeah, that's, yeah. Jaheira, Catti-brie, and Narak. What? Jaheira did have a solid number of stacks, so it wasn't a good adventure for her. But the reason, ultimately what this came down to, is that those champions are able to be in a formation with the best supports and tanks in the game. And that's really what it comes down to. In fact, what ended up being the worst DPS, the bottom tier DPS, which are Nerds and Warden. Nerds is just because Nerds is not really a viable DPS champion. Never meant to be. Warden is because Warden's in the slot with Avron. Warden's in a slot with the best support buffer in the game. It's hard to lose Avron and do well. Noticeably, I didn't mention Artemis. Artemis, not a top tier DPS for me with my item levels. Not even a second tier DPS. Artemis firmly in the middle with Kreidel and Binwin. Also in a tier with, because my chat at the time I did this live on stream on my channel, which you can see down below, twitch.tv/Gaarawarr, spelled like it sounds. They're like, hey, test Baloth DPS. I'm like, okay. That ended up in the middle tier. Test Briv. Briv ended up in the middle tier. Rosie's actually a mid-tier DPS, despite all the hate. Because she can be in a formation with Avron and a lot of other strong champions now. And actually, Rosie now has a lot of female champions that can support her well. So Rosie actually not the worst DPS in the game. It's Warden and Nerds. So yeah, keep in mind your results may be different from mine based off item levels, and gear, and champions that you might be using to support, right? Which is why I don't like tier lists for this game, because it's way too subjective. Polaramina, as a returning player, I have some year 1 heroes unlocked, but I feel very lost. First off, welcome back to the game. What heroes should I prioritize unlocking apart from 2 on each slot? Ultimately, that's the goal, is 2 on each slot. As to which is the second on each slot, we kind of need to know which slots you need 2 in. There are definitely some, best in slot champions. Every slot has competitors for best in slot. But it's difficult to just generally say, hey, go unlock these champions. Because it really is super important for you to get to 2 in every slot to get your first Modron core. The Modron core is a bigger deal than any specific champion. Once it's fully leveled up. So yeah, if you ask like, hey, I need a second slot, I need a second champion in these slots, and then list those numbers, we can give you a more specific response of who to look for. Plus, keep in mind, you've got events come. Well, there isn't this event right now. I think we're going to have a couple time gates back to back after this, and it's probably not going to be. The next event is probably going to be delayed because of all the anniversary shenaniganry. Cosmic 420. How do I get Corazon's Bring the Heat? I have a formation of all neutrals, so that should give me at least 9 grease puddles, but I can't figure out how it works. Does one enemy need to be in 9 puddles? Yes. I'm not even going to finish. That's the yes. I get 9 puddles, but they're not overlapping. And the ult fires and doesn't give me the Bring the Heat road. Yeah. The best way to do this is to build a formation of actual neutrals, not just using his specialization to make it that way. And the Mage Hand spec on the boss in this event, on the Area 50 boss, because it will stack up. Corazon just has to attack 9 times. It will put 9 puddles under that big spider, and then you drop the ultimate, and it'll trigger right away. But if you don't want to do it in this event, if you find that too problematic, find a stationary boss like that in another adventure. So a boss that just exists on the screen when you roll in. Use that mage hand spec to just drop 9 puddles on it and then hit the ultimate. Lesh68, I just unlocked Mert. What do I do with him? You do things for him. You don't do anything with him. Mert is a patron. Patrons give you bonuses, but only if you do things for them. So what happens is when you get Mert, and you go out to your screen out here. Let me switch parties real quick. You'll have a box up here on the top right that says Active Patron. I have no patron currently active, but I can slot Mert. And when I do, that will let me do variants, again, that I've already completed. So like this is the Servants of the Demon Priest variant from Waterdeep. I already did the regular version of this. So that means I can now do the patron version. The patron version is going to have a higher completion area. You'll notice the requirement is must have completed this with no patron. The completion area is much higher, and I get the patron restriction of Mert, which is only good or evil champions can be used. So it's a more challenging version of content you've already completed. The reward is both influence and currency for that patron, though, and those are the things that you want. Those are the things that you want. Let me switch back so I can show you why you want those. Good. Calculating novel in progress. Yes, I know. I was away for like 20 seconds. One of the things you can use things for right off the bat is influence. It says spent, but let me be clear. You're not using it up. You're just applying it, and you can apply it to perks. Perks are either local. Local means they apply only when Mert is active as your patron. Global means they apply all the time. So when you're first doing patron stuff, you want to prioritize kind of a little more in the local column. And when you go to do other stuff, you can reset your influence and then apply it more to the global column. Resetting your influence for patrons does not consume any influence. This is not favor. This is influence. They named it differently for this reason. You can reset influence and reapply it and never lose any. So you can switch up how your influence is applied situationally. Okay. The other thing you're going to do with that influence is it acts as a high watermark. You notice I only have available EO8 influence, and I've spent 9 EO8. But over here it says I have EO9. That's because it's tracking the total in the shop. And the total is like a high watermark. It is a gate that allows you to purchase more and more things. More and more things. The further down on this list you go, the more influence you need to be able to buy it. And you pay for it with the coins that you earn from doing those variants, but also from doing challenges each week. We call these chores. We got to do our chores for Daddy Mert, Mommy Vajra, Uncle Strahd, and Aunt Zariel. So we do our chores each week to get our allowance, and then we go spend it in the shop. The thing you want to buy every week, you get enough influence for just right away and buy every week, is the time gate piece. Should be obvious as to why, right? Getting an extra time gate piece every week helps you get more champions, and ultimately it will help you gear them up faster, right? The other thing is skip all the potions. The other thing you want to buy every week is the Modron component chest once you've unlocked your first Modron core, because this is the only additional way to get Modron component chests other than just leveling up your core, and you're only going to get 14 from that because the max core level is 15. Right? So you want this. You want this and the time gate piece right away. Don't worry about, don't even buy patron chests starting off. Don't buy the potions, and don't worry too much about these one-time purchases. That's all these things that are wrapped in gold down here are one-time purchases. Don't worry about those so much when you're starting out. Keep your currency for time gate pieces and Modron component chests. That's going to be your biggest bonus. And that goes for all the patrons. All the patrons will offer a time gate piece and a Modron component chest. So you can get 4 time gate pieces a week once you've unlocked all 4 of them. Plus, if there's a blessing that turns the 1 time gate piece that drops every 5 to 6 days into 2, which means you can do a manual time gate every week once you have all the patrons unlocked. Polaramina, what are the speed heroes unlockable recommended ones? Oh, there's a lot. There's a lot. Did I do a Gaarawarr's Guide to Speed Champions? I don't remember. Slot 1, Deacon. Deacon's a speed champion. Slot 2, we got Whittle. Slot 3, Nahara is now, right? She's so new. It should be Nahara. Slot 4 is Sentry. Slot 5 is Briv. No, Xander is not a speed champ. I don't acknowledge Xander as a speed champion. Slot 6 is Shandy. Slot 7 doesn't have one. I know Minsk has the tag, but no. Just no. Slot 8 is Human. Human and Briv, top 2 speed champions in the game. Slot 9, we don't have one, but you'd be running Nordum, usually in a speed formation, to level up your core until it's capped. Slot 10, technically Havalar, but only with her first set of imps out and only against fiends, which is on Mad Wizard, which is where most people start their speed journeys. Slot 11 doesn't have a speed champion right now. Slot 12 has 2. They have Melf and Vi. I don't know which is better. I don't know which is better. Disrespected my boy Minsk for not calling him a speed champion. Look, if he actually did useful speed stuff, I wouldn't disrespect him. He doesn't. Him and Xander can go cry in a corner for all I care about their speed abilities. Tatiana's technically a speed champ. Ooh, no. No. I'm not going to count Tatiana either. I'm not going to count Tatiana specifically because you have to wait to get the effect that might be considered speed every time you want it to proc, and that's no. It is what it is. It's a nice. It has its nice uses. It has its great uses, but no. Larnest, question about Modron core bonuses. Yeah. Do bonuses only work in offline mode, or do they work in online mode also? Bonuses apply all the time, generally speaking. As long as you have the core slotted in the formation, I can slot cores in my background formations. You know, they're going to do their thing in that formation, whether it's online, offline, or whatever. The difference is the speed core has speed effects. Speed effects don't necessarily currently get counted in the background. So speed effects may not work offline. Great Void, Twilight Twist. Oh, you don't have to tell me what it is. I know it. It's fantastic. I don't know what the hold on. Multiple credit quest progress doesn't appear to work. We struggle to progress under the crushing weight of the ghouls. What am I missing? Oh, Strahd variant specifically. Honestly, I don't know because I've never completed it. I've never completed the basic version of this. Gaarawarr, why would you not complete a basic adventure variant in the game? Because this specifically says down here, 1 to 3 relentless ghouls appear with every wave. When they're killed, they don't disappear. After 5 seconds, they get back up and start attacking again. This type of feature means that if you sit on that level long enough, the only enemies, because the enemy cap on the screen at any given time is 100, you will eventually have 100 relentless ghouls just falling down and getting back up again, falling down and get back up again. And this is the best way, fastest way to stack up champions like Dahani and Toragar, who have stacks that are based off attacking things and getting their marks or getting their kills. Technically, this works for Zor. This specific one will work for Zorbu as well for his undead, but he has 4 different types of enemies. Well, technically, you would only do 3 because 2 of them count. Like if you there's a humanoids and there's a drow, but drow are humanoids, so there's no need to farm humanoids. You just farm drow and you get double credit. So I didn't finish this one because I wanted to stack up my Dahani and my Toragar, and I did that. But I've left it just in case another opportunity arises for me to use that to stack things. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on there because I've never bothered trying to push beyond level 1. Beyond level 1. So I can't help you out. I don't know what's going on for that. I see that you said you have to periodically extinguish fires. The issues I've seen with things like that in the past are if you get stuck and you're not moving forward, because you're not killing things, you can't get to the next fire to extinguish. And what I will tell you there is a Sharan knockback will push them back and allow you to move forward a little bit. The problem is it is a very long cooldown. So anything that can shove enemies back and let you walk forward might help you progress to extinguish more fires. If you're not actually getting credit for them getting extinguished, that's a bug. Submit a ticket. That's all I can tell you. Lash 68. I notice you keep your click damage down. Why is that? Is click damage necessary in win? Oh, you mean like I keep upgrading it, or I don't like? Or do you mean like I keep familiars on the field? I'm not sure what's going on there. I will say this: I put familiars on the field because that's the only thing I have down. I'm not using this at all. I keep the familiars out because they have functionality when they're out here. I guess I should have removed that one. So with 3 or more familiars in the field, gold gets instantly collected, which lets me move forward faster. With 5 familiars, the boss X get picked up right away, which lets me move faster. And 6 kills distractions. You said you don't upgrade it. Oh, I don't. Specifically for this scenario, I don't need to upgrade it because I'm showing off champions. So I want the champions to be doing their thing and killing stuff. I use click damage a lot for speed runs. The rule of thumb is your click damage level can be, if it is equal to or greater than whatever area number you're on, then it's relevant and you can keep upgrading it. But once it's not, you can stop. Like here, if I can get this up to level 388 right now, which means now 389, which means I could use click damage to instant kill everything and not have any champions on the field really, unless I deal with segmented health stuff. So this is useful for just progressing fast early on in an adventure. But once the area number gets equal to or higher than your click damage level down here, there's no reason to put more money in that. Just so you know. Is there a type of feat that's not yet in the game that you would like to see added? Ooh. Yes. Yes. I know you want me to tell you what I want in the game, but it might. I don't know if it's going to happen or not, so I don't want to talk about it because I don't want them to get mad at me like for talking about something that might be coming to the game. So yes. I I'm sorry. I have to be vague about that one for redacted reasons. Generally, I will say in general, I would like champions to have a more solid set of feats that are functional and that support their abilities. But that's not what I would like to see. I mean, I would like to see that in general, but a type of feat, yes, there is a type of feat I would like to see in the game that isn't currently in the game, and I can't talk anymore. Maxi Cubert, about a lesson in classes. How strong a core would I need to get this one done? I don't know. I did recently, Gaarawarr's Guide to a Lesson in Classes, the tutorial show, where I did a lesson in classes on screen. I will tell you that a lesson in classes is heavily about building the right formation. Do you need a lot of power to back that formation up? Yes. But how much power? I don't know. It's subjective because it depends on the power of the formation you built, the blessings you have, the perks you have, and also the core you're using. There's just a lot of variables. So it's not... keep in mind, what I want you to take away from this is it's not just one thing. It's not about one thing. It's about the combination of all of those things. So if you need a little help with that, hit up that guide. I've seen good responses to it. I also did one for Bully for You. And honestly, I think if you watch my Bully for You guide, you should be able to do Bully for You, period. It's pretty fantastic. KSI, I'm working on unlocking all the perks on my patrons at this point. Nice. Is there a patron you'd suggest doing first because of their perks? I haven't hit a wall yet, so I'm curious about power. Okay. Let's do a quick review. Usually the first perk goal you want is Tier 4 Mert, Challenge Accepted. This increases the amount of patron challenge reward earned by 20%. That's what adds this plus after the total and gets you just extra free currency every week when doing challenges. So that's a good first goal, is to max out Challenge Accepted. After that, the globals exist, but aren't amazing. So, Tier 4 and Mert, really the first target to work hard towards. After that... I do like golden gifts because I like getting more golden chests, but I wouldn't make it a priority because it's just 50% chance of getting 2 instead of 1, but only when you actually get a gold chest. So it's super low level. I wouldn't say, in general, you're going to want to max these out, but I wouldn't make any of this a target right away. Strahd's Best and Brightest is a good target for once you unlock Strahd. Increases the damage of champions with int 13 or higher by 150%. So that's any DPS champion that qualifies for Strahd. But keep in mind there are feats that make champions apply for Strahd. Like Zorbu has a feat that gives him int 13. Gromma has a feat that gives her int 13. This both is better. That feat, slotting that feat when this is maxed out, gets you 150% damage bonus, which is better than any straight up damage feat either of them have. So if you have an int 13 or higher DPS and you can get Strahd's Best and Brightest, suddenly that's a nice big bonus that's better than a feat when you're slotting feats. That's something to keep in mind. And then after that, I think really the big one that is good and to work for is these tier 6 and 7 bonuses for Zariel, specifically because they're bonuses specifically for Trials of Mount Tiamat. So this is just damage of champions, which maybe you're like, whatever, but 500% with restrictions. You want all the damage you can get for Trials. But then Tiamat Unleash, which gives you a bonus to your Assault Party DPS when you reach the daily Trials amount. Like Assault Party DPS is big. So any kind of bonuses you can get for Trials to help you progress through Trials easier, like that would then be a big deal. I will say trying to max out patron perks is something you shouldn't worry about until you have completed the like Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. There are some very good variants there that are high level, high reward that are low restriction. So you can jump, you can send all of your patrons up to like tier 4, tier 5 with just 3 or 4 variants. So putting in tons of work before that might be a little wasted. You could be a little efficient if you just wait a little bit. Augie? I'm going to go with Augie. New player here. Welcome. How do I get time gate pieces? You wait. Obviously, as I mentioned before, there's one in the patron shops once you unlock patrons, so you can buy those once a week. But if you're a brand new player, that's not available to you yet. The only way to get one is every 5 to 6 days when you kill a boss, a boss will drop one, and then you have to wait another 5 to 6 days. It's time based. Later on, you'll get a blessing, like a global blessing that doubles it to 2 of them that get dropped, but it's so far along that it's not something to worry about for new players. It's unfortunate. That's one of those things that should be probably moved up and adjusted with blessings, but yeah. So time gate pieces are mainly just patience. There are wild offers like this that will include, like, geez, that's 10 of them. So if you're somebody who supports the game with cash and like a wild offer comes up, there might be a lot of time gate pieces in it. That's the only other way. We're coming up to the end of the show, so let me finish off these questions. Twitch 5 Cats, can we swap cores mid-adventure? Oh yeah, I did a minute ago, see? Look, I swapped my core. Oh, I swapped back. Yeah, absolutely. Hero number 0. Which champions are counted for Jim and Olcoria's magic user buffs? Any champion with a magic base attack. You can tell this symbol, this icon right here, is what you look for to know if it's a magic base attack. That's what they want. If it's got this symbol, it counts. If it's got this symbol, it doesn't count. If it's got... hold on. Let me switch over to Shandy. If it's got this symbol, it doesn't count. That's ranged. So this is melee base attack. This is ranged base attack. This is magic base attack. So Olcoria and Jim are looking for magic base attack champions. Winterborn 1, 2. Is it better to have mirror images longer or more powerful? Longer. Always left spec for Avon. Always sturdy. Always sturdy mirrors. 4 of them is a much bigger deal because you're getting those bonuses. All of his bonuses 2 more times instead of just doubling the effect. Doubling the effect means nothing. Getting more unique instances is a bigger deal. That's one of those specializations that probably needs changed because there's no reason. Well, you don't want to change sturdy part, but you should probably come up with something that's better than just doubling the damage to make it viable because there's no reason to ever go the other way. Emperor 1331. Any particular patron variants to jumpstart influence gain? Oh, again, there's 4 in Avernus. Oh boy. I can never remember them off the top of my head, so give me a moment. I want to say Relentless Peril because it's 525, but as a patron, it's much higher. And the restriction is just, hey, they've got twice as much health, and they don't actually die. That's fine. That's fine. That's not a big deal. Where are the others? I think Madcap Adventures is decent. Ragged Draggers Crew is definitely one of them. It's just basically there's lycanthropes that show up. There's literally nothing. There's really nothing else that happens there, so it's pretty straightforward. There might be some new ones that got added. I haven't even checked for newer ones. No, that one's real tough. I don't know. Those are the those the main. What's the Path of the Red Caps one? It's a little lower. I feel like you want stuff that's over in this neighborhood and beyond. So Madcap Adventures Redux. What's this? Potentially fight dragons with dragons. I know there's a tripled attack cooldown, but by this point you should have tanks that could survive that. So that might be another one now. Ragadagasku is definitely one though. And so is Relentless Peril. Extreme Heat used to be broken. I don't know if they fixed it. Yeah, I don't know. So I can't really recommend that. Originally it was real good. I don't know that it is anymore. Yeah, I would say those. Those are the only ones I could say at the moment. I mean, ultimately, if you can get all the way through that and get those perks suddenly and you throw them into local, you'll start being able to finish off a lot of high-level stuff because you'll get a lot of power out of it. So you'll be able to rock through some of those others as well, but you just want to start with those easy ones. Last question. So Briv, is he any good? Briv's one of the most overpowered champions in the game. There you go. So yeah. He's good. He tanks, he heals, he supports, he speeds, he juliennes, he slices, he dices. I mean, he kind of does too many things at once. But what are you going to do? All right, folks, that's going to be it for today. There's no more streams until Tuesday on this channel because Monday is a holiday in both America and Canada, so they're not doing any streams. I am streaming on my channel, that one down there, in about an hour or so. It's Final Fantasy Saturday. We're going back. I'm going back and playing through all the original Final Fantasy games, the Pixel remasters. We're currently on Final Fantasy 3. We should make really good progress today. We kind of hit a wall last week, and then I may have done a little bit of job farming off stream. So we just should be destroying things for a while. Oh well. And then Monday, I'll be streaming Idle Champions on my channel, because while it's a holiday for the CNE folks, why not? I'll be streaming for a while on Monday. So follow my channel if you want to come hang out with me on Monday. You can ask questions, just hang out, whatever. We're going to go out on, because this is a Kobolds in Space pack. Pack Antics Series 2. We're going to go out with Kobolds are number 1, folks. Thanks for hanging out. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
Kobolds are really tough. Kobolds will steal your stuff. Kobolds we like to sing. Kobolds will take your things. Kobolds live underground. Kobolds we run around. Kobolds we like the dark. Kobolds don't need no art. We may be small, we may be last, but we are many and we're coming fast. So hide all your gold and pack up your tools. We'll stomp on your toes and steal all your jewels. Kobolds covered in scales. Kobolds, we have cool tails. Kobolds, we're not that short. Kobolds, we're in your port. Kobolds come from dragons. Kobolds train your flagons. Kobolds deserve the praise. Kobolds are really great. We may be small, we may be last, but we are many and we're coming fast. So hide all your gold and pack up your tools. We'll stomp on your toes and steal all your jewels. Shiny rocks and bits of string, skulls and bones and slimy things, honey treasures, lots of proof. Three kobolds stacked tall as you. We may be small, we may be last, but we are many and we're coming fast. So hide all your gold and pack up your tools. We'll stomp on your toes and steal all your jewels. Kobolds, we fight and hurt. Kobolds, we forget words. Kobolds are super fun.